Hi guys! Yesterday we practiced using the line tool to make some different types of straight lines. Today I want to look at the line tool again and learn how to use it to make not straight lines. So maybe we'll make some curvy lines or some zigzag lines. There's lots of different ways to make lines with the line tool, and I'm super excited to jump into it with you today. Okay, ready? So the first thing we need to do is click on our line tool. So if you look, there's our arrow, there's our line tool, and right next to our line tool, there's another little triangle. And when I click on that triangle, you can see that there are different options that pop up underneath. So I see line, which we learned how to use yesterday. Then there's one called arrow. There's one called elbow connector. There's one called curve connector. There's one called curve. There's one called polyline. And there's one called scribble. Today we are going to practice using arrow, elbow connector, curved connector, and scribble. We're going to talk more about curve and polyline the next time that I see you, so don't worry about that just right now. So, we are very familiar with line. When I click on the one that's underneath line, which says arrow, you're going to see that it's really similar to our line tool. When I click and drag my arrow tool, it makes a straight line just like the line tool. But if you look real close at one end, instead of just a flat end, there is an arrow. And we can change this line the same way that we changed our straight lines before. So I can change the color by clicking on that pencil highlighter tool. I can change how thick or thin it is by clicking on the different numbers. I can make it dotted or dashed if I want to. And I can even change the arrow that's at either end of my line. So if I click on the one that's right next to the line dash, that will change the left hand side, so over here. And I can add an arrow, or I can add a circle, or I can add any of these different options. And if I click on the one that's right next to it, I can change the arrow on the right side, or on this side of my line. I can change it into a different looking arrow, or I can make it into a square, or I can make it into any of these different options. So there's lots of ways to customize or make these lines look like exactly how we want them to look. So that's pretty much it for the arrow tool. When I go back up to the line tool and I click on that little triangle right next to the line tool, and then I click on elbow connector, you're going to see that this line looks very different from how our straight lines have looked so far. So when I click down once and then I drag my mouse wherever I want it to be, you can see that instead of one straight line, I now have three straight lines that are connected to each other. There's one horizontal line at the top, then one vertical line that goes down that connects our top line to our bottom horizontal line. And once I'm happy with where those three lines are, I can let go. And this one happens to look like the line that I just made, but I can change that if I want. So I can change the color. I can get rid of those ends if I don't want those there. I can make it be all those long dashes. I can even move this line, this vertical line in the middle. I can move it more to the left or more to the right. And to do that, what you're going to do is bring your mouse back up to the arrow button. Click on the arrow button. And then you should see a blue square around your elbow line. In the middle of my vertical, so my up and down line, I can see a yellow diamond. When I click on that yellow diamond and I drag it to the left, it moves it to the left. Now I have kind of like a snake shape. If this was his head and this is his neck, and then it goes down, and he's got kind of a slithery body. And if I click on that diamond again and I drag, I'm moving the whole line. But if I click on that diamond again and I drag it all the way to the right, then it moves over there. So I can move this vertical line anywhere that I want to make this line look exactly like I want it to. So now I'm going to click back on the arrow button, and I have 2 lines so far. After our elbow connector, I'm going to click on curved connector. Now, I'm going to get started by using my curved connector, say that 3 times fast, by clicking once and then dragging it again, just like I did with all the other lines before. But you're going to see that instead of any straight lines, I have a line that almost looks like an S. Right? So that's pretty cool, and depending on where I put it, it moves that curve all around. And when I let go, I have one long curvy line. And I can change the color just like I did with all my other lines before. I can change how thick it is. I can change if it's made out of dots. I can add dots at the end if I want, and dots at the beginning if I want. And I can also move this curve the same way that I moved my vertical line. So what I'm going to do, once I'm happy with how my line looks, I'm going to bring my mouse back up to the arrow, and then there is a blue box around my curvy line. And in the middle of my curvy line, I can see a yellow diamond again. When I click on that yellow diamond and I drag it wherever I want it to be, it moves my curvy line. So I can move it up or I can move it down. I can make it kind of slither all the way around. Now it's almost a straight line, or I can bring it all the way over there. So we can really play around with what our curvy lines look like using that diamond shape, which I think is pretty cool. Oh, it keeps letting go. Let's do it one more time. There we go. Okay, the last line that we are going to talk about today when we click on our little triangle is we're going to skip over curve, we're going to skip over polyline for today. We are going to click on scribble. What is a scribble? So scribble in Google Draw just means that instead of having to draw a straight line or drag and draw a line that looks curvy, I can draw a line however I want it to look. So this is more like using a pencil or a paintbrush in real life. I can make loop-de-loops, I can go all the way around, and then I'm holding my mouse down the whole time that I'm drawing with it. And once I'm done making my long, squiggly, wiggly line, I can let go. And that one is blue and dotted just like the last one that I made. But if I don't want it to be blue and dotted, then I can change the color. So maybe I want it to be green. And now I turned it into a green line. And maybe I want it to be really thick. So now it's an even bigger, thicker line. And maybe I want it to be solid. Or, I don't really like how that one looks, so maybe I'll change it to that. I like these dotted lines because they kind of remind me of a treasure map, and I like when my pictures look like treasure maps. But maybe I'm going to get rid of these dots at the end. So there's lots of different ways that we can play around with this line tool and make really cool looking pictures. What I want you to do today is play around more with line, arrow, elbow connector, curved connector, and scribble to make your own picture. You can either make something abstract, so just playing around and adding lines wherever you feel like they go, or you can try to draw something more clear, like a picture of yourself, or of a house, or of an animal, if you want to do that. It's really up to you. There's lots of different ways that we can be using the line tool right now, and I really just want you to have some fun with it. So I'm super excited to see what you make.